time?
I didn't even put in a key. It just says I'm live.
Okay, so I'm receiving content now. Cool.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear him?
Guys, is this working at all?
How's the audio?
How's the audio?
Is the audio audible?
Do I have the best radio voice of us all?
You guys are super loud.
We're loud.
Hey, is that too quiet?
Do I have the best radio voice of us all? Where's that audio coming from? From your computer, Brandon?
Yeah.
So we're good.
Oh, we're good.
I'm gonna hit record right here.
Are we too loud?
Are we too loud?
Your guys' mics down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Turn them down.
Turn them down.
Are we live yet?
Yeah.
We're live?
Live and local.
You're live.
It's a
Kelly-
good shot of Big B's
Burn
head.
says no one can find the podcast.
Yeah, because it's not live
It's not a
yet.
podcast yet, technically.
Who's number 2? I think that's
Me.
Lance. Can you talk?
Yes, sir. I can talk. Talk. No, I don't talk like that, Samuel. No, I can talk like umpqua.
Umpqua.
You guys got any of them diachis?
Diachis. This is the filler
This is the filler.
before we go right
Got
into the live.
diachi hooks.
People, this is what happens when it's the first ever podcast.
Boom.
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 That's
Audio check. 1, 2, 3.
Go again,
Yeah.
Curtis.
Yep, can you hear me now?
Oh, Curtis, that was you that was on full blast.
Oh, is that better?
Okay, you guys should
Can
be
you
good.
hear it?
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Everybody? We have figured out this
Contraption.
system.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
It's really nerdy.
Yeah, Lance and I have been sitting here, and
Yeah.
Sam too. I won't lump you
These
in
guys
with
have been
nerd.
driving the
That's
whole thing.
real nerdy. And we don't understand any of it.
Well, should we do an introduction now? Now that we're
Yeah.
live? Are we live?
Yo, your name of your cast of the stream right now is Watch Me Play a Great Game.
Watch me play.
Let me see
Hey,
if I can change that.
Actually, I
Some
think
more
I can
Lance?
change it here.
Oh yeah, you change it from the Elgato.
Anyway, we've had some technical difficulties here in the last little bit, but we'd like to welcome you to the first ever Fly Fish Food Shop Talk podcast.
How about right now?
My stupid computer wants to restart. Go ahead.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, we're going to leave the nerd stuff to Curtis. But anyway, what we want to do is we just want to kind of, we're going to be looking at the interwebs. We're going to have old Sam and Big B over there read us questions. But the idea is just to cover whatever topics you want to be, or whatever topics you want to cover. But in the future, we'll probably have a set topic. We'll have some guests come in. And we have Lance, so basically whatever we need to know, we just we can hear from old Silver Lancer.
Yeah, sure you can.
There we go. That's
Apparently I didn't get the memo on shirts though. I was born on St. Patrick's Day, so I only wear green on that day, but
Curtis, you said you were going to
I
change
had
your
forgot.
shirt.
I've been doing nerdly fast.
Holy crap! So I do have a long sleeve green Patagonia shirt.
oh yeah, the sleeves are different, sure. Good
Sleeves.
save.
I just
Good
took my
save.
sleeves off.
They're pretty sexy.
Hey, what do you guys want the title of this to be?
Shop Talk Podcast, episode number 1, Q&A.
I think so. Q&A.
I changed it on here, so I
Shop
guess I
Talk
did.
Podcast, Episode 1.
Shop Talk Podcast episode 1.
'Cause that's what
We
this
do
is.
have one comment, so if you're following on YouTube, you can add comments there. I also started a post on the Facebook group Fly Tying with Uncle Cheech that I have in front of me right here. So if you ask a question there, we'll be able to see it as well, but we'll just kind of tackle topics as they come in. And topic number 1 is old Kelly Barnes says Lance's hands are so soft.
Hey Barnes, I've been wearing lotion every single day, so lay off. Lay
Yes.
off. They're still dry. It doesn't matter. We live in the desert. It's okay.
Yeah, I live in the desert too, and my hands don't look like a freaking iguana.
Well, you do have office hands. We won't.
Hey,
I'm a fly fishing guy.
As far as the tags, I have Lance Egan as the #1 tag right now.
Lance Egan is #1.
Oh man.
That's Lance Egan right there.
Yeah. We'll never live that one down.
So we should probably tell that story real quick. from
No,
the
that won't be
holders.
necessary.
No, that's awesome because we use that tag all the time.
Yeah, way too much actually.
Yeah, and it's awesome because Lance turns like 18 shades of red.
Only when I laugh.
It was
Yeah.
classic.
Lance didn't laugh very hard that day, but he outfished us
I
all.
think deep down he did.
So
Cried.
we were in the middle of nowhere, southern Utah. We had taken the side-by-side up to this mountain, up to one of our brookie lakes. And the whole shop's there. We're out there taking our boats out, pumping them up. And we hear a side-by-side or some type of ATV coming up the hill. So these guys, 2 guys come in and pull in right behind us. And then we're thinking they're going to come up and, kind of just chat a little bit. And the passenger gets out, sticks his head out, turns to his buddy and goes, "That's Lance Egan right there." We all heard it. And he just jumps back into side-by-side, back down the mountain they went.
So if you're watching, whoever that was, next time just stop and talk, please. Just say hello. It was awkward to just have you drive away.
No, it was gold.
No, it wasn't gold.
We've ridden that pony for
Yeah.
like 2 years
It's now a dead horse. It's no longer a pony.
Well, you still got to beat it.
No.
The dead horse.
No. Come on.
Anyway, that's why we use hashtag that's Lance Egan right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
#1
Good.
question: why doesn't Lance have a laptop?
Why doesn't Lance have a laptop?
I'm sponsored by Apple. Not really. So my laptop, I don't know why I didn't think to bring it. I don't need one. I've got one on both sides of me, and I'm not that nerdy. So.
Plus, Lance has more stuff committed to memory than we ever.
Oh yeah, sure.
I have to Google the questions.
Yeah.
I have a shortcut on my internet browser where it's to all of Lance's like leader formulas and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So, anyway, yeah.
Next question: Lance, are you excited to go to Italy this year?
I am excited. The next question is, am I excited to go to Italy? Yes, Team USA leaves for Italy next month. I am very excited. I hope not to get my butt kicked too bad. Hope to have a better showing than I had last year, and hope that the team does really, really well. Thank you for the support.
Another thing to mention is there is a delay in the stream, so questions come in faster than the video catches up. So if it looks like we're
well, I guess-
delayed on your questions, that's why.
We're delayed on the questions a little bit. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I actually had a list of topics that I was gonna, in case we had people who didn't ask a lot of questions. Topic number 1, Tenkara.
Tenkara.
Insider info. That you're
Yeah.
That's topic number 1.
Big B says it's insider info.
Okay.
So,
We can't do Tenkara, apparently. I think you have to be an expert on something to talk about it.
hey, I fished it for, what, Curtis, like an hour?
Yeah, solid hour.
Solid hour.
That-
We lost count of the fish that you never caught.
Yeah, because the the problem, I'm not bashing Tenkara.
No,
All
not
right,
at all.
okay.
Not right now.
However, when you got freaking guns like this that can throw 90 foot just by looking at a fly rod, and you have fish that are rising at 75,
They were, which they were.
and you
Trying
can
to
only
get
cast
closer.
30,
Yeah. For as close as we could get with the boat, it would just not
Yeah.
cast that far.
yeah,
Then the reel
yeah.
kept falling off.
Anyway, I am going to try it again. I'm going to take it on a float down the Provo. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow
Yeah,
night.
Tomorrow night.
Tenkara.
I don't know if I can commit to Tenkara though for like a whole float.
Maybe 30 minutes.
30 minutes?
30 minutes of Tenkara.
I could have like Siri keep a timer for me for 30 minutes.
So one thing, guys, we're getting like tons of questions about Lance and competitive fishing stuff. So we may want to just tell them that we're going to do like a separate event
Yeah.
on that, because that could be that's like a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. Big B just told us that a lot of the questions have to do with Lance and the competitive stuff. So And we can talk about it for sure, but I think we ought to schedule a time where Lance can kind of give us the rundown of what it takes to be an all-American, all-star, all-state, fancy competitive angler.
When I find out, I'll let you know.
Typical Lance Egan response here.
Do we have any other questions that are not competition related?
I had one on Instagram that was fishing with fishing bass with a fly rod. Like, how do you do a setup, rods, just targeting bass
So
with a fly rod?
step one is put the fly rod down and pick up a bait caster.
No.
So Sam asked, there's a question on Instagram, how to fish for bass with a fly rod. So
Yeah, so let me give you my history on that real quick. So a number of years ago when Cheech and I started getting a lot more into bass fishing, I really did everything I could to use the fly rods, and got a couple of those Sage bass and smallmouth rods, largemouth, smallmouth. Good rods. Started fishing from the bass boat with the other dudes that had bass gear. And
other dudes like me.
Cheech was the main culprit. The problem, I mean, I love catching bass on a fly rod. Don't get me wrong. Who is this guy who walked in the store here? Oh, it's Bigby. So we're good on audio. The podcast guys are gonna be going, what the crap is going on here?
Just a little audio.
There's an arm.
Just an adjustment.
You need to talk more into like the face of the mic because Lance is picking you up like that.
Right there? Okay.
Or move it like towards your side a little bit.
We're trying to figure this audio thing out, so don't hate
We're
us.
audio files.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what I found is if bass are in deep cover, I'm usually not going to be fishing with a fly rod as often. There's a couple things. Number one, it takes you an enormous amount of work to get your flies down and then get them out, and the time it takes. So if you're like, let's say they're fishing jigs like with a bait caster, they're going to be able to cover a lot of water in a really limited amount of time compared to what you'll be able to do with a fly rod. So I'm not saying don't do it. Obviously do it. So my best thing, what I found is you can get more of the reaction bites with the fly rod. So if they're hitting bait fish, things like that are moving quickly, you can fish in
Top water and open water.
Yeah, top water and open water is kind of your main thing. I have fished a lot of, in fact, I have a leader formula, if you want to call it that uses braid, that doesn't cast really well, but with those lines that come with or you can get any floating line that turns over a truck, you can turn braid over and then drag it through whatever, but it's still a little bit of a pain. But top water and open water are kind of my favorite things there, and they'll take a lot of different streamers. Weedless kind of becomes a thing as well, even with poppers and
How
top
does
water
your
stuff.
shoulder feel after you've been throwing 9 weight all day long?
That's a huge thing. So I'm throwing 8 and 9 weights for that, mostly because of the flies, not the fish so much, but also yanking them out of the crud. So yeah, it takes a toll. I'll fish still, if we're out going for a day of bass, I'll bring a bait caster and spinning gear, just the same. You got to use what's right for the situation. So,
That said, if you're going to fly fish for bass,
yeah.
I guess not to knock the question, but just to say what do I need for bass is kind of like saying what do I need for trout.
Yeah.
We need a little more information. Are you fishing lakes? Are you fishing smallmouth in a river? Are you fishing for largemouth? Is it somewhere? What kind of climate is it? Do you want to fish topwater? Do you want to fish subsurface?
Is there
If you can give us a question that's a little bit more specific, we can probably give you some experience on it. But bass in general are very aggressive, and like Curtis said, they like structure. They like to hang where they're hard to get with fly tackle. However, you can definitely get them with fly tackle.
I agree. I think that one thing to remember is, just like a big brown trout that's really aggressive and it's going to eat a streamer, that's how bass think too. So if you can present a fly in front of a bass, that's the big question. And the problem with part of that is sometimes bass live clear back up in the sticks, and you can't really present a fly regardless of how weedless it is. So, I love catching bass on the fly. My old email address used to be bassonthefly@something.com. Super tough guys.
And for a day, you carried the state record.
Oh yeah,
for smallie.
that's a good. I'll toot my horn since you already started.
I started the toot.
Yeah, on our Olive Willie the Olive Willie pattern, I caught a state records catch and release smallmouth bass on a 5-weight. So it can be done. I used to do it a ton, but right now I think I have 23 bait casters and 11 spinning outfits. So, and I love fishing that way. So I think that's the fly fish food theory on bass. More information, weak shoulder, heathen gear with smelly jelly. Right?
Ready for the next one?
I think so.
So somebody asked a question about what are your favorite midge hooks? Are there any great barbless options?
Is that Nick? Oh, I see that on the old Faces book. Nick Bracknell. I think because I know old Nick, he's moved from Texas to Colorado, so he's getting all midge crazy. Favorite midge hooks, and are there any barbless options? I'm going to defer this one to Lance because he rakes over hooks unlike any person I've ever seen.
Sam's feeding me numbers over there. He's saying the Gamakatsu C12B.
C12BM?
Yeah, C12BM, which is really small, like 24 to 30, I believe, size hooks. They are barbless. That is a good hook.
And it has a big eye as well.
Yeah, it does. There are lots of barbless hooks. There aren't tons that get quite that small, but there are lots of barbless hooks that get 18 and 20. We carry everything from Fulling Mill, Dohiku, the Gamakatsus we mentioned. Trying to think of others. We have Tiemco makes some tiny hooks. They're $24.99s. I guess only go to an 18, but there are lots of barbless hooks out there if you look. Hopefully, Nick, I think you might find you won't have to fish, quite that small all the time. And if you do, you could also just get a little wider gap hook like a 2488 or a 2457, 2487, Daiichi 1130 or 1120, and just pinch the barb on small hooks. That should do the trick too.
Yeah, and that's a good point that, when you're tying midges, you can get away with tying only on like 3/4 of the hook shank. So you can tie a size 20 fly on a size 18. But yeah, and the other thing is when a hook is that small and you pinch the barb, you're really mashing it down. So there wasn't much barb to start with.
And I think, wasn't it Uncle Ken who pioneered the technique of tying 6 midges on like a size 2?
Uncle Ken, yeah. So it was, it's got to be an eagle claw.
Well, yeah, of course.
And you measure how much the barb sticks out from the hook shank, and that's how big your midges should be.
Classic him.
In fact, if you're tying woolly buggers, if you tie a zebra midge on the hook under the woolly bugger, it apparently makes the fish mad that
Lights
the
out.
woolly bugger's eating all
Woolly
the midges.
bugger ate it.
Lights
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Cool.
Uncle Ken, he's a real dude, by the way.
I don't think so. I see Kelly Barnes on there says, talk leader formulas, Euro specific. Man, there are lots of leader formulas. So, Barnes, you got to go get Modern Nymphing or Modern Nymphing Elevated, man. Those videos have all the formulas in there. Or you just live around the corner. Come talk to us. Visit us like once every couple of months.
And brings cured smoked meats.
We prefer Traegered meats, by the way. No, but leader formulas, you can do anything from, we like to hand tie them usually out of Maxima. You could do a 20, 15, 12. You can go lighter and do a 15, 12, 10. You can keep going lighter still. The lighter you make the Euro leader, the harder it is to cast, but the further away it'll let you fish it. I think I would just encourage you to play with different leader lengths and leader diameters and then go from there. I like to make my leader from fly line to the end of my sider somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 or 13 feet, and then run tippet from there. A lot of that's because I'm following comp rules and I can't have my leader more than double the length of my rod, and I like to fish really long tippet from my sider. So keep that in mind. If you fish shorter lengths of tippet, you can make your leader a little bit longer, but 12 or 13 feet of leader and then terminate a sider and tippet ring and add some tippet. What else have we got on there? Ooh, I see a
let's
good
see.
streamer one.
What's that? Oh, it says, what makes you decide to throw a streamer versus other fly types?
Tim Farmer.
Tim Farmer. I guess I'll answer that one. I think part of throwing streamers is just the fact that it's fun to watch the fish eat. You know, typically there are always going to be fish in the river that are going to eat streamers. It's how patient are you going to be and how much you're going to work to get them to eat. Like if it's rainy outside, little drizzly, no wind, and you know, a lot of cloud cover, a lot darker than normal. In my experience, those can be the best days to throw streamers because the fish are a little bit more aggressive and willing to come out and eat. That being said, if you watched our last vlog with old Silver Lancer in front of the boat, we had a bluebird sky with maybe some scattered showers running through. And he threw on a moderately sized streamer when every single other boat on the river was either watching a huge grenade-sized balloon or dry dropper, and Lance was wrecking fish. And I think it's just because, you know, it was kind of a last resort to a certain degree, but
Yeah.
I think there's really no bad time to throw a streamer.
I can tell you why I threw a streamer on the green the other day. He says, what makes you decide to throw a streamer versus other flies? For me, we tried dries of various sizes, colors, and shapes and designs. We had tried droppers. We didn't nymph. We probably could have caught a few fish nymphing, but we kind of had made up our minds that wasn't what we wanted to do that day. And so we tried everything else. We were getting some fish to eat the dries, a few to eat the dropper, but we know how many fish are in the Green River, and we weren't catching as many as we thought we should. So I thought I'd just throw something different in it, and it worked.
And how?
Pow.
And pow.
Zap.
The other thing to note about that streamer rig that was unique that I saw of Lance's is, was it a 6 or 7 weight that you were throwing at him?
6, yeah.
Yeah, so he had a 6 weight rod, a pretty aggressive sink tip leader, and then
Sink tip line.
Sink tip line. Yeah, I do that in my videos all the time when I go back and watch them. I say the wrong word, and people just, they roll with it. They know I'm not the brightest bull.
Oh, well, I just want to make sure, because then somebody's going to come in tomorrow and go, where's all your sink tip leaders?
Got any of them sink leaders? That's Lance Egan.
I was watching that YouTube the other night, and Cheech said sinking leader, and I got to tie my flies on a Daihatsu.
Well, we was out there to fish, and Lance Egan said sinking leader. Go out and limit out in half an hour.
Anyhow.
All right, so he had a longer leader, and he was fishing 2 flies at the same time, but instead of tying off the bend of the top fly, he had a tag section tied on, kind of like we fished our Stillwater leaders and the Czech style, or the Euro nymphing as well. And I think what that does is it allows the fish to get their whole mouth on that front fly, because it's got a lot more room to move, and I think that made a big difference as well. I threw streamers for about 30 minutes and missed a bunch of fish, but I was only throwing one. It just meant I wasn't flossing as many as you were.
You were throwing one. You were throwing bigger streamers a
Yeah.
lot, too. I was throwing more bugger type streamers that were a little smaller, and I think on the green anymore, it seemed like 15 years ago they were crazy about those big streamers. I think anymore they get big streamered to death.
Yeah.
A lot of the guides I know out there have been cutting back their streamer size a little bit.
And the other thing is Lance was fishing an olive and then a ginger and olive, right?
Ginger, all ginger, and then ginger and olive, yeah.
Okay. So and I think that's important too when you're throwing streamers, since we're talking about it, is have something that's dark and have something that's light. A lot of times they'll eat one or the other. Sometimes both if they're being dumb.
Hey guys, we got a question just on. They're asking what particular line were you throwing the sink tips, so they're just wondering that, you know.
The question is, what line was I using? I was using a 150 grain sink tip, Scientific Angler's line. I was, but I don't think it was terribly specific to that line success-wise. If you had a line that got down, it's an old line, if you got a current line like one of the Titan tapers that was like a intermediate 3.5 or even like a hover 2.4 or something like that has the tip the densest part of the line, it just needed to be down a couple of feet. In the really deep water, you could throw a couple mends and let it sink, but most of the time we were catching fish in shallower riffles, faster water, not really even letting it sink much at all. Had weighted flies, both flies were either tungsten beaded or lead-eyed, and then a line that helps keep them down. One thing of note, Jim Speaker did us a favor here and brought up the 2487 BL on one of our previous questions. That's a really good small fly hook that does come barbless from Tiemco. Thanks for that shout out, Jim.
Strong work, Jim. Because of that, you are going to win one full case of absolutely nothing.
But we do appreciate it.
He got his hopes up there for his one full envelope full of love from Curtis Fry. He's going to give...
Sent out daily.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else from you guys over there?
We had a question about dry dropper versus Euro nymphing. Like, when would you do it? And then advantages, disadvantages to both, like comparing them. And then specifically, what flies actually get eaten when you're doing dry dropper, and like some dry flies, and what good ones those would be.
You guys want to take that one?
Curtis.
Dry dropper, I mean, it's kind of a hard comparison because they're really different techniques and approaches, but
Yeah.
like for me, if I'm thinking there's going to be some dry fly action, I'll start out with dries and kind of focus on that. I'm not a big fan of going immediately to a dropper. If they're not hitting the dries specifically, it's a good idea. You can tie on a dropper and pick up some fish underneath, assuming they're feeding in that range. One of the things I do like to do with smaller streams is take my Euro nymphing rod and fish it kind of tight line-ish because you can have that additional reach with your dry and the dropper. So you're almost leading it through kind of like you would with a Euro rig. You just have a little bit better chance to get rid of drag and detect strikes. But as far as nymphing goes, I mean, if they're not on top, Euro nymphing is always a good way to go. Again, it's tough to decide that between because they're different approaches, but.
And I think that, if you're seeing fish feed, or that the fish are going to be 50 feet out, but they're only going to be a few feet under the surface, you could either use the float the leader technique, or is that what you call it?
Float the cider, yeah.
Float the float the cider
Float the
technique.
sink
Always
tip
with
leader.
leaders.
Yeah.
Float the
Son
sink
of
tip
a-
and leader.
Who's the dummy at the table? Anyway, you could either do that technique, or you could just use a dry dropper, for those mid-column meets. But if you were Euro nymphing, you're probably gonna catch more fish, I think.
Yeah, to me they're different. I would use the dry dropper to fish shallow, really shallow, for fun. Not necessarily because it's the most effective, but sometimes it's fun to fish a dry dropper because you can catch some fish on a dry. Otherwise, I would fish a dry dropper in pieces of water where you can't fish a Euro rig, maybe where you needed to suspend flies off of debris on the bottom, or a large deep pool where you can't get close enough, you can't physically wade close enough to get to the fish. I fish a dry dropper on a large river like the Green River, like we were a couple weeks ago, just to kind of give you a shallow nymphing type rig. Certainly increases your odds of catching fish as soon as you go subsurface. It's just a fun way to fish, one of many ways you can catch fish.
The other thing that I'd add is, if you're fishing dry dropper and you start to get consistent strikes on the dry fly, you should probably take the dropper off, because it's going to impede more hook sets than you want, just in my experience. So
Jim says he's looking forward to that empty envelope.
Already sent it, guys.
Thanks for the sense
on
of
its way.
humor, Jim.
Jim, that's denoting that Curtis's heart is a cold heart, or a cold dark space of emptiness.
It's a mailing list.
Yeah, he didn't even recognize that it's going to be full of love. All right, Jim, you're going to get written up by Matthew the Chicken if this keeps up.
Here's one. Do you guys prefer rivers or Stillwater? Curtis, you like rivers or Stillwater?
It depends on the time of year. I used to really not like Stillwaters, honestly.
I had to twist your arm
I know,
15 years ago one time.
It's I liked it for a little bit at the beginning when I go high mountain lakes and I'd fish dry flies, but that was about it. And Cheech drug me up to a lake, and we caught a few fish. I mean, it was pretty epic. But yeah, time of year for me is the thing too. And if I had to choose one or the other, I'd say rivers in the morning and then lakes in the afternoon.
So how's that for a wishy-washy
Yeah, that's
answer?
very wishy-washy.
I'm a river guy right now. I'm addicted to floating.
Well, I would say that floating a river versus wading a river,
Oh yeah.
it's a game changer.
Yeah.
So,
I think we're always we always find interesting things we haven't done as much, right? Because all three of us have wade fished rivers a lot more than we floated. So floating for us is really cool right now. If I were to answer that, I'd have a hard time too. I'm like you. I tend to fish still waters mostly spring and fall, and then fish rivers summer and winter.
Yeah.
But I mix them up all seasons. I don't know that I could really pick one or the other. They're both awesome.
Yeah, when Lance gets the tunnel vision on lake trout, then ask him that question, and he doesn't want anything to do with the river.
No, I don't.
yeah.
Super important question from Eric Svensson. He's asking Lance, what are your favorite snacks to have out on the river?
Eric Svensson. Well, I like to bring braces for my elbows just in case I fall. It's not a snack, Eric, but favorite snacks? Good gravy. I don't know.
Make sure to repeat the question.
Cheech can answer.
Yeah, Eric Svensson is one of our local friends from the shop here. He lives nearby. He's asking what our favorite snacks are on the river. I think Cheech pretty much brings sausage and bacon.
And bratwurst, yeah.
Bratwurst, yeah, basically. Hot dogs,
And
perhaps. He's kind of on a Cheeto diet, I think you call it. Is it a Cheeto diet or a keto? I can't remember.
Cheeto.
He cheats on his keto diet.
But I'm going to change the subject from my fatness back to old Svensson. So here's a dude who's a full-grown man who buys a kid's toy, one of those one wheels, and bro comes walking into the shop one day and looks like he's been playing linebacker or something. It's all braced up, broke his elbow. So I asked him what happened, and he starts digging for his phone. I knew it would be good, and it shows him going like,
You better not go any further.
yeah, well,
There could be.
there's some implications there.
Yeah, you better not.
Anyway, long story short, we saw a Scandinavian Viking skidding across the pavement, and it was just great. I'm sure the video will surface sometime in the next 6 months to 5 years. But,
So Svensson, I guess just in case we go fishing soon, I prefer Nature Valley dark chocolate and protein bars, Waters and Gatorade.
oh my gosh.
Maybe some. Costco has those really good. What are they called? Fig bars. The fig bars are good. I like that. Beef jerky. Beef jerky's
jerky.
awesome.
When Lance gets crazy and he wants to get crunk.
Crunk. I think it's drunk because it does start with DR.
No,
I think this is where we're going,
not
right?
the way you do it. You down a fully leaded Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper, yeah.
Followed up by
Caffeine and everything. None of that
Mama
diet.
lets me have a Dr. Pepper.
None of that
every 6
aspartame
months.
for my heart. Thank you very much.
I would be dead if it weren't for aspartame.
No, you're going to die because of aspartame. You have
Either
that
way.
backwards.
Either way.
All right, what
these
else?
Snacks. Freaking Svensson.
There was a question about how you pick hackle in your local shop. Might bring up flash hackle.
How to pick hackle in your local shop. Well,
Is your local shop fly fish food?
yeah, because if it's not, then that's what you do. You get in your car, you drive to Fly Fish Food, or you buy flash hackle.
Exactly.
I was thinking about that because we just got a huge shipment in. It's going to drop Sunday night. I think there are about 100 of them in there. And it was super interesting because we got a gold Dun Grizzly saddle that's just immaculate. You take it out of the bag, but when I got sizing it, they were 8s and 10s. And looking at it in the bag, I would have never been able to see that. And on the other side of that, the best Midge saddles that we've gotten lately are the pro grades. They're probably 3 or 4 times better than any of the silvers, bronzes, or even golds that we've gotten because you pull those open and they really are 18s and 22s. So always open the bag when you buy a hackle. Make sure that you open it up. You can even ask the shop if it's a good shop. They'll have a hackle gauge and you can look at it. But if you're buying whiting hackle, you're always going to get really high quality dry fly hackle. The crapshoot is sizing, specifically on saddles. So if you're picking out hackle, it's just my opinion, but you have to go through it and open it up, open the bag. Any shop that's a fly tying shop will let you do that. So
Hey, can you order that stuff online? Because somebody says that they're too far from the shop.
what's that?
Can you order that stuff online?
Yeah,
Somebody's
somebody's saying that they're too far from our shop. So to that point, Cheech is the master of our flash hackle. He goes through all of the hackle personally and sizes it. It's already graded, so he doesn't have to grade it, but he sizes it and makes it so that it's available online. So if you don't live near enough to the shop to drop by, go on our website, store.flyfishfood.com, and look up the flash hackle. And he has pictures of exactly the hackle you're going to buy. It's already sized, so there's no guesswork. When you order on our website through Flash Hackle, we're not just picking a random hackle out of the bin of feathers. You're getting the exact one that he's already gone through and sized for you, so you can make sure you get the color and the size that you want to tie the flies and patterns that you're after.
I appreciate the nod of confidence there, Silver Lancer.
Yeah.
But no, I was thinking about that. How many shops really open up as many hackles that we do, and like literally pick through them and size them up? I mean, it's a lot of work.
Well, it is, and I think part of the challenge with anybody buying hackle, especially if it's done online, if you don't know the size, and colors vary, these are animals, right? I mean, you can't guarantee, even within a grizzly, you can't guarantee that it's going to be a certain percentage black, certain percentage white.
Yeah.
So it is good to see pictures and know what the sizing is, which I think any shop who may be listening out there, if you do want to sell more hackle, you got to do that. I mean, Whiting does a great job at grading, and their products are like, it's not even close. There's nothing that's even can touch it, but there's a little bit more than just looking at the grade and the color. So anyway, and then grading, which is another just side note here, doesn't typically have anything to do with the quality per se of the individual fibers. It does play into it, but you're really talking about the quantity of flies that you can get from a certain product. So if the reason we're seeing some of these pro grades that have really prime feathers is probably because you're not going to be able to tie as many as you could on an upper grade.
They might be a little shorter.
Could be shorter, yeah. So don't discount. I mean, that's the thing with anything. And our flash hackles, we do go into that in a lot of detail as far as sizes, and you see the actual color, and that helps you pick them out a little bit better. So.
And some of you might have seen this. We posted it online. I think was it on the old Instagrams? But I found a bronze cape that came with our order, and what we do is on the bottom of the bag, if the hackle curves around, we call that the S-curve factor. And this cape had maximum S-curve. So I pulled it out, and it had a size 18 hackle that was, I think, 15 inches long.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So I was going to flash hackle it, but our good buddy Justin Barker walked in, and I said, all right, I got something to show you.
He loves hackle.
Yeah, so he's got more hackle than I do. But yeah, needless to say, it found a good home in the Salt Lake Valley. It's probably mingling with a bunch of other hackles in a Tupperware bin somewhere now.
What else? Other good questions?
Joe wants to know why you guys are only answering serious questions.
What's that?
Joe,
Has he asked a non-serious question that we don't know about?
that's the problem, is he needs to ask more questions because he just says, why are we only answering serious questions?
Which one? Where was that?
It's on our YouTube.
Oh.
Yeah, the question is why we're only answering serious questions.
Oh. Ask
Well,
us a non-serious question.
We're trying to be
Eric
serious, but
Svensson's was the non-serious.
It's kind of hard to be
and-
serious when you got, like, Cheech has his Facebook thing up here and has Facebook ads, and it says recommended for you nearby. And you know what it is? It's a mini bike. It can't be recommended for him. Mini bike, Salt Lake City, $380. So if somebody out there wants a mini bike, check out Facebook ads. But
I'm gonna share the mini bike.
that
on
thing
Fly
would,
Tying with
that thing was, that thing you'd be dragging your knees on the ground with that mini bike.
You're too fat for this.
Not
one,
recommend.
Maz.
That's too small for me.
Yeah.
Not recommended for you.
Well,
Facebook fail.
that tells you what my search history is like.
Bicycles.
Bicycles. Yeah. Here's a BMX bike too that I could probably wreck in one pedal.
It's called the pedal test.
pedal
speaking of
test.
Facebook, I think this is a pretty good question. It says, what was it again exactly? I'm going to try to word it exactly. It said, what are the most important things you've learned from social media?
Ooh, serious question.
Social media. What's the most important thing we've learned from social media? In fact, we're probably going to do a whole podcast on social media. I mean, it makes sense to kind of talk about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I need to go get my beverage. You guys talk for a second.
Just peace out for a minute.
Oh, he has it.
Boy, that's a good question. I've learned that it's a little eye-opening, I think, when you see a lot more people sharing things, whether it's fish, pictures, or flies, or whatever. The one thing I've learned is that there's a lot of good tires out there, like really good tires. And I'm not a big fan of fly tying shows. I think social media is a much better platform for that in a lot of ways. But I think the thing you see now is that you get a lot of tires from areas that maybe wouldn't have those kind of shows and that kind of exposure. So I've learned that a lot of people out there, good tires, good fishermen, learned that you probably, at least I feel, I've got a lot of areas to improve. So it's kind of been a humbling experience to see all the talent and skill out there. It's a drive to do better. Those are some positives. I mean, there's a lot of negatives too. Learned that there are a lot of people that are on the, what do we call it, the bro staff that kind of want the free gear. I've got an Instagram account, so give me free gear kind of a thing. And that's been a little bit of a bummer because you have people that kind of want to work the system and take advantage of people just because they exist.
We got a good one the other day on Instagram. It was a message. It was a dude that had a fishing channel. It was one word, sponsorships ?
Oh, man.
I usually respond, what's your ROI? And then they spend the next half hour on the Google box. Anyway. No, but I think social media has been cool. And Curtis has been doing it longer than me, but I think one thing that I realize is no matter how good I think I am at tying or fishing, there's always going to be somebody out there who's way better than me. And, if you always keep that learning cap on, you can always get techniques from guys. The other thing that I think is really interesting is watching people pick up fly tying, and through social media, YouTube videos and posts, and being able to have all this information, they can go from never tying a fly or being very limited to being a really excellent fly tyer. Like I'm going to give a shout out to our buddy Casey Thompson who has done some videos for us on our site. And Casey came and saw us do an event for a group one time when we became pretty good buddies, and he pulled out his fly box and he said, all right, I need feedback on this, but I need real feedback. So I just gave him a few tips and pointers, and then he worked his butt off, and now he ties cleaner flies than me.
Good stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's really awesome stuff, and he's only been tying for a little while.
And that brings up a good point. I think one of the things with social media, for us at least, our whole thing with starting Fly Fish Food was originally just a way for us to share, almost a way to archive our own patterns. So we'd have, what was that fly we tied 5 years ago, or and then it kind of became
the stupid chimera.
Yeah.
I'm about to delete that one from.
Yeah, the stupid chimera. But and just a way for us to see that, but also kind of share with people, because you get questions about flies, and it's a good method for us to share and do that, to help people see how to tie a certain fly or different techniques. And that's really what started us, I think, more than anything, was just the amount of input we got from people to say, hey, what's this material, or how do you tie that fly? And it feels good to kind of help people out. I mean, we've had other people that we've had communicate to us stories of how fly tying has kind of changed their lives in some cases, that we're not, nothing special about us inherently, just that we like to share those things. For us, there's no secrets, And social media has been one of the things that's kind of enabled us to share and to make some awesome friends and,
Even
get to know
Lance.
people. And we can sit next to Lance and
Yeah.
just chat.
Yeah,
That's Lance
Totally.
right there.
good one, Brandon. Good one.
That's Lindsay right there. Okay, Kelly Barnes wants to know, when you Kool-Aid, do you sugar?
This sounds like a Lance
No,
question.
that's a fire. That's a campfire talk question right there. That's a
Kelly Barnes
that's a men of
asks-
world peace question right there.
Kelly Barnes asks, when you Kool-Aid, do you sugar?
I think you should.
I think you should.
Yeah, I think you should.
No judgment, but you should.
But if you really want the best answer, you ask Big B's brother Kilo J. he was dropping one-liners at the camp, one of our last fishing camps. We were just dying laughing. Anyway,
Yeah, I think he is required to come on all campouts with us from here on out.
yeah. I mean, if you have one-liners and you're a funny dude, you can come on our camps. We're trying to replace a guy that brought ribs that were subpar last time.
Oh, that is brutal.
Just kidding.
He's
Fighting
bringing them
words,
for me
dude.
and Lance next time. You're
Fight
out.
words. I didn't say that, Barnes. I did not say that.
Oh man, I think I owe Kelly an apology and some tri-tip. Let's see. One thing I thought that would be interesting that the people ask from time to time is kind of go down the row and talk about what's your favorite piece of gear or what's your setup that you use the most right now.
That is a good question. Any kind of gear.
Well, just like what's your rod,
Non-camera
reel?
gear, non-camera, non-computer gear.
If I
Boom.
can't talk about my
Straight
cell
to the
phone or my
face.
computer or my audio nerd equipment gear, I'm out.
What's
No,
your
you're
favorite
not.
rod, reel, line?
You
setup
have
right
you
now?
have
That's
lots of
easy.
experience with other things. Come
That
on.
is easy.
Yeah.
So right now, it's got to be my Stillwater setup. So I've got a Orvis Helios 3 6-weight 10-footer, and probably one of the surprising, I didn't realize I would like the reel this much, is the Ross Evolution R. And it's kind of a heftier, heavier duty reel, but I love fishing that thing. Right now I've got it spooled up with the hover line, and so I've used that a few times and I like. Probably though, it would be the Midge tip as far as lines go, with the uber long leader setup. So that's kind of my groove right now. I am pretty much only 10-footers on my Stillwater setups in general, I think now. So anyway, good. I like the setup. I also bring my 6-weight 10-foot Sage X as a
Sage X.
as a backup,
As a backup rod. Holy crap.
or maybe the main one.
What a snob. I shall fish with my $4,000 of fishing gear. What about you, Sir Lance?
Rod
Lancelot?
caddy, please select my Sage X if you would for this.
That's a good English accent, Sam.
That was terrible. Let's
Sam,
be
that
honest.
so bad.
That was
Never
bad.
trust a guy that has a freaking cheese grater for a quarter panel on his forerunner. I'll post pictures.
Sam
later.
was making fun of my terrible English accents yesterday, so that's what we're laughing about. I don't know. My favorite setup, that'd be hard to say. Right now, my favorite thing to do this time of year is float in the high drifter or the flycraft and hit some moving water. So if I had to pick just a summertime favorite rod, I've been fishing the Sage X 9-foot 5-weight a lot just as a workhorse rod. I can throw dry dropper. I can throw streamers with it. I don't think the reel makes a big difference, but I really like the Lamson Micro 5. That's been a really smooth reel. The line, I am kind of a big fan of the line. I really like textured lines, so I'm a big fan of the Scientific Anglers, particularly the Amplitude MPX or the Amplitude Trout, depending on how delicate or how powerful I want the turnover. The MPX is a bit more powerful, so throwing hoppers or pounding banks on, like our local river here, the Lower Provo, we throw a lot of, that's not big flies, but large dry flies for the Provo, let's say 10s, 12s. And I really like the MPX taper for the compact casts that we're doing a lot of times there. Versus on the green, if I wanted to fish a bionic ant or something a little bit further away and have a little more delicate set down, I would choose the trout taper. Otherwise, I would, if I was nymphing, I'd probably take some sort of 10.5 foot 3-weight with a Euro competition line and a long leader and some weighted bugs. You?
I like it. So my two favorites right now, and I have two of them as well, is the Orvis H3. Is it the F that we got? The feel. So it's a 9 foot 5 weight, and when we float or like we're fishing the green, it's a good rod to present anything from a delicate dry fly up to a streamer. We were even throwing mice on it the other night. Yeah. But I have it strung up with the Orvis Mirage reel. And first thing I noticed with the reel is it wasn't quite as light as my Lamson's, but I think that reel is designed to be a tank, because I don't think anything is going to break it. But anyway, it balances out that rod really well. And then I just got the, the Scientific Anglers Infinity Taper, the smooth Infinity Taper. And I really like textured lines a lot. But I threw this on, this Infinity Taper, and I guess it's designed just to kind of throw anything you want. And I've really liked it. I've kind of gotten used to that, so I don't know if I'll switch back to the Amplitude MPX. And then the other setup that I like a lot is a 7-weight. I like fishing a 9 foot 7-weight for streamers, and I have two of them right now that I fish a lot. The Douglas Sky, which is a really super lightweight rod with a lot of power. And then the Sage X, that's also lightweight, a lot of power, rich people stuff, as Big B would say. But and then I'm typically throwing one of the Scientific Anglers Sonar Titan Taper, the triple density lines that Lance was talking about, where it's intermediate 3.5 is the one that I like. I think it gives me a better connection to the fly. But anyway, that's my favorite gear stuff.
Good setups.
And Orvis nippers. If you're not cutting your tip with the Orvis nippers, it's probably not going to work.
It might.
What?
It might.
It won't.
Oh, it won't. My bad.
I read it on a podcast.
It's just like those lighters. You got to have the right poop lighter, right?
Oh, yeah. Somebody, okay, there's a question that we can answer that's not very serious. In our fly tying videos we use, this is Daniel Church. He's asking, have you ever tried using a different lighter than the poop lighter? We have a poop colored lighter.
Heresy. Why would you ever want to use anything other than the poop lighter?
Right.
I mean,
we were literally filming one night, and I was rifling around. Curtis's room looks like a hurricane went off in it, 24/7.
One might say his room looks like poop.
Poop. Good dad joke there.
Dad joke.
Anyway, I was reaching for a normal colored lighter, and Curtis slapped it out of my hand. Gave me the poop colored lighter.
may or may not have happened in that way.
One day it's going to run out of fuel, and then what?
I'll go find another poop lighter.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, we're going to have to find more poop lighters.
Buy them all.
Buy them all.
One thing that we may want to answer super quickly, because it's been asked a couple times, is the audio going to be available later? We didn't really talk about the plans, so maybe you just want to talk about it.
Good question. So, in all of the nerdly firepower we have here, one of the reasons we're doing this format is that this will be a podcast. So we are recording a separate audio stream, and we'll publish that across podcasting land.
Podcasting land, so
iTunes, Stitcher,
Shopify,
Stitcher,
Podbeam.
What?
Podbeam, I think, is one of them too. I don't know. I don't know these things.
Podbeam. Yeah.
I'm leaning here. I'm reaching a little
is
bit on.
a thing.
I think it is a thing. I hear about it.
So yeah,
Go ahead. Tell me to talk about the things I know about. Go ahead.
Officially
Yeah, I
in the
just love it.
podcasting business/world. Business is not even a business. It's
Oh, it's a
thing.
business podcast. Big business.
Yeah, you got to be legit. That's why we're wearing headphones.
Yeah, Curtis tried to get us set up with just no headphones, and I'm like,
No, can't do it.
no, we have to say, this is your captain speaking. How did we do it?
How did we do it?
I just remember that I was kind
We
of.
are now
part of
cruising
that
at 35,000 feet.
Today we are assisted by our lovely assistant Curtis Fry in the back. He'll be serving the first class cabin with some alcoholic beverages and Diet Mountain Dew.
If you'd like tips on how to shave your legs, take a look underneath his britches, and he will give you tips on leg shaving.
Oh my gosh.
And feel free to move throughout the cabin. Okay.
We're too serious.
Moving right along.
Too
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah. We were only answering serious stuff.
Yeah, so we're gonna be doing podcasts. We'll keep doing our tying tutorials, our vlogs. We're focusing on content.
Content.
This question got asked twice. What are some of your favorite lake streamers for lock style fishing?
Favorite lake streamers for lock style fishing. I think this is a
Yeah, Lance should probably answer that.
Lock style? Well, you guys have some lock style streamers you like too. Favorites are your go-tos, I think. For me, the Humongous, some sort of blank saver would be a favorite. I fish really basic stuff. Really, yeah, there you go. Long-tailed. If you haven't seen our Humongous video, check that one out. It has a short shank hook with a very long marabou tail, and then just let your imagination be your guide on the colors you should tie it in. Olive, green, brown, black, all white, solid orange. Go on and on and on. That's what I fish the most of the time, I should say. Blobs are another thing that we fish quite a bit lock style. They're kind of a bright colored attractor that could be taken as Daphne, I suppose. That's one of the theories, but I don't know why the fish eat it. They just do. Otherwise, lock style, we also do a lot of lock styling like Curtis was talking about earlier with Midge tip lines. And the Midge tip is basically a floating line with a really short intermediate tip that sinks and anchors the line in the surface a little bit. And then we crawl either balance leeches or chronomids or damsels or calabatus nymphs with that. So whatever your favorite patterns might be. I think confidence plays a bigger part there than the actual pattern. But if you're more confident in our patterns, then check out our YouTube channel, and there's a playlist of just Stillwater patterns. I think you'll find a bunch of good stuff on there.
Yep, for sure.
One thing that I was actually talking to somebody about today, I think it was a good old Jason Jamesi in Denver, because he's starting to tie streamers, and he asked me, what are your favorite streamers for lakes? And I think that there's a misconception that you have to fish really big streamers, and I actually prefer not to fish much over a size 6 on a lake. And most of the success on like little buggers and leeches and stuff are like size 8 or smaller. So I think on lakes, you have to realize that on a river, you're casting out this big streamer, and the fish is holding in current. And if he moves out of that current, if he moves out of the current to eat, he's got to eat. He can't go and just kind of have a look at it and say, no, that's too gaudy. Whereas in a lake, these fish can come and they can look at your fly. They can swim around it 18 times before they eat it. So it's got to be a little bit more realistic and presentable to the fish. Just my opinion.
No, agreed. Most competition lake flies are on 10s and 12s, where I find most recreational anglers, let's say, fish a lot of 6s and 4s and 8s maybe as a smaller fly. I think going smaller, is, to your point, is an advantage.
I found times when you think in the fall, I mean, they maybe get a little bit more aggressive, but I've still found I'm fishing smaller stuff more consistently, successfully.
Yeah. I think that, on our favorite brookie lake, you could pick one of 2 flies that's between a 12 and a 16, and you catch any fish in the lake. And additionally, back when Curtis and I started fishing Stillwater, you'd get in your tube. If you were real fancy, and I think we both had them at one point, is you'd put a trolling motor on your pontoon, and you would do the kick and twitch, or joling, right? Jig and troll.
Joling.
So you cast out about 20 feet in front of you, then you'd kick out to straighten your cast out. You're kicking over the top of a bunch of fish, and then you'd throw like a size 6 crystal bugger down and just kind of twitch it as you trolled, and you'd catch fish that way, but it's nowhere near as effective as really matching the hatch. And we owe a lot of that to Lance and some of the guys that are these comp fishers, because a lot of people don't realize that they compete on lakes just as much as rivers, right? Am I saying that correctly?
Mm-hmm.
So Anyway,
It's called a loch.
a loch.
Or a low if you're in Ireland.
Hello.
Low. Lough. Low.
Sam, did you know that one? Mr. English accent. Sam.
I think he's number one too, Sam. I do. I think he's number one.
You guys saw that Sam got a written warning for bad conduct the other day for listening to Luke Bryan in the
Oh,
show.
country is off limits in this store.
Big B brought it to our attention. He sent us a live video. Sam got written up. He's on a last chance agreement right now, and he just flipped me off. Hey, everybody listening here, I may need you to send me your resumes. No.
Question, guys. What are go-to nymphs for highly pressured water? Like the probo.
Go-to nymphs for highly pressured water.
I
Tell
think-
them why they only eat tiny flies on tailwaters, Lance.
Yeah, so we get that question asked a lot. Our videos, Modern Nymphing and Modern Nymphing Elevated, we have people that all the time comment, send me messages on Facebook, email me, whatever. So that's great. I really love the information in it. But what if I fish a tailwater? I have to fish small flies, and you don't. You don't have to fish small flies. We filmed like 95% of both the videos on tailwaters, where every guide on the river is fishing 22s and smaller, but we're catching fish on 10s and 12s and 14s and 16s. So you have to just break your mind of the habit or the belief that you can only catch fish on small flies. But confidence flies on pressured water are just whatever your confidence flies are. I don't change my flies up a lot no matter where I go. I find that most of the best competitors are the same. Whether we're talking about some of my teammates like Devin Olson or Pat Weiss and on and on and on, or even having fished with some international anglers, most of the top anglers have a box of flies that has way less fly patterns than you'd think, and they have more sizes and more, if you're nymphing specifically, they'll have each hook size with different bead sizes or different weights. So you would end up with, let's just use a red dart as a good example. If you had a size 14,
great example.
size 14 red dart, yeah, it's a terrible example because we can't keep them in stock. But the red dart, if you tied it in a size 14, you could tie it with a 2.3 bead, a 2.8, a 3, and a 3.3, or even a 3.5 if you want it on that 14 hook. And then you can fish it in fast water, deep water, slow water, and that allows you to get down in each situation. But I think you'll find that most competitors and most people, whether they're fishing pressured water or water that hasn't been touched in years, they don't change their flies very often. It has a lot more to do with the confidence in the fly and the technique. We can send people to the river all day long with all the right flies out of the bins, but if they fish them the wrong way, they fish water types that don't hold fish. If you're nymphing, they don't get them to the proper depth, or they're not drifting the proper speed. It doesn't matter what fly you throw. So I guess that's not really the answer to your question, but the answer is maybe try a little bit smaller, but I would encourage you to try some different techniques to catch the fish. And if it's really pressured water, look for water that isn't as pressured. There's always sections of rivers that are overlooked, whether they're shallow, whether they're too deep, whether they're too fast. You can find water that's not pressured as much.
Yeah, I think that one thing that I've noticed as I've started to Euro nymph quite a bit more is if you just cover the parts of the water that the majority of the anglers don't cover, there are still going to be fish there a lot of times, and you'll be able to catch those fish that don't see as many flies. But even then, you can catch them on basically whatever you present correctly. What's that, Big B?
I didn't say nothing.
What? Shout out to Brittany? Okay. Hey, Brittany. Big B says that we got to give you a shout out. So, shout out to Brittany. All right. There's a question here I think that is a good one about fly box organization. How many boxes do you carry on the stream, and if not, in a boat? That's
Curtis?
an interesting one.
How many fly boxes you carry on the stream?
On a stream, maybe a couple. I actually don't carry that many on a stream. It depends on if I'm expecting dry flies. I may throw in a few extras. Nymphing, probably just a couple. I kind of pared down my nymphing boxes a while back. So, and on Stillwater, I'm carrying a lot more just because I've got a lot more room. But yeah, I don't know, maybe two to four.
I think it has a lot to do with how familiar you are with the water as well.
Yeah.
Because if, like, for example, we know right now that if we went up and floated, we'd be fishing hoppers, PMDs, and caddis for the most part. Some ants maybe. So we can get away with 2 boxes or whatever. But if I were going to a river that I don't know very well, I would do as much research as I could, and I might cram in a whole bunch more fly boxes.
Yeah.
Just a general dry fly box or whatever hatch is going on, and then I try to have like a Euro nymphing box always in there, because you just never know when you're going to need some really heavy nymphs.
So it looks like we're at the top of the hour here. So
Top of the hour.
goodbye.
What do you think on the, well, we can end with Lance's thoughts on fly box organization, because like when you guide, you got to keep stuff in stock and organized.
Cheech doll. Nice. Yeah, fly box organization. I wish I could tell you my boxes are really organized, but they're not very. To answer some of the questions, I guess, how many boxes do I carry on the stream? I'm not exactly sure, but probably most of the time maybe 10 to 15 on the river. And then on a lake, it'd be maybe a few less, but that's because some of the boxes are larger on the lake. But maybe 8 to 10, 8 to 12. How do I organize them? Lakes I put my lake boxes, I have chronomids and nymphs and those types of flies in certain boxes, and then I have boxes with more woolly bugger or humongous style flies. And then I usually have a box that has blobs, boobies, fabs, that kind of stuff that are all either buoyant or more attractor type flies. On rivers, I keep all my nymphs in boxes by themselves, and then I change my dry fly boxes. So dry fly boxes get changed out per season. So I keep boxes that have kind of summertime patterns: ants, beetles, hoppers, caddis, PMDs, yellow sallies. I'm forgetting some, but green drakes would be another one. But then I have boxes that have just midges and blue-wing olives that are more spring, fall, and winter. And then I have a couple of, in my summertime box, I always have a few midges still and a few blue-wing olives, but I keep the numbers of them in separate boxes because I find for several months of the year I just don't need that box. And I already take too many, so I have to try and thin the herd.
Yeah, that's the same approach I take.
Yeah.
Really, I keep all my nymphs together because I can nymph any time of the year with almost any fly. I mean, you could. You're not going to be just limited. Dry fly is a different story, so that's why.
One interesting thing too, I think that could be brought up is with streamers. Like, how do you put a big old streamer box in like your fanny pack? So what I did is I just have like a little fly wallet. I pull out 4 or 5 streamers that I'll use in the day, and I'll just put them in there. And sometimes I just keep it in my wader pocket or my pants pocket, and that's how I haul around streamers, because like it's hard to tote around dozens of big meat bugs. Anyway, I think that's about it.
That is a wrap for our first podcast.
Just as a reminder, you can find, all the social media channels, obviously YouTube, but Instagram, Facebook. You can look at the Fly Tying with Uncle Cheech Facebook group. If you're not a member of that, make sure you jump on over there. There's some decent drama and discussion that happens over there. But most importantly, as you see, we have a shop. We have basically everything you'll ever need for tying flies. It's online. It's store.flyfishfood.com. We have warehouse ninjas that will get your order out pretty much within 24 hours of it coming in, if it's not on the weekend. And if you order on Sunday, make sure to use the fast ship coupon so that Curtis has to come in here and pick it. Anyway, what else?
I think that's about it.
about
we'll
it.
have I think going forward, we're going to, like you said, have guests narrow down the topics. This was kind of just the opener to get a feel for it, but we'll go into a lot more detail on future episodes upcoming.
Yeah, and also give us some feedback. Like, let us know what you thought. What was the quality like, as far as if we can make this better for you? We're all ears. Topics, anything like that. So No, Lance won't do it. Showing his big guns with his cutoff shirt. We
No.
already asked him. He
My
won't.
cutoff shirts, they're only for my wife, sorry.
He's got some inappropriate tattoos.
I have 0 tattoos. Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hopefully we get to do a bunch more and field a whole bunch more questions next time.
Okay. Peace out.
Peace.